Now what we are going to do is that we want to probably create an end-to-end project. So I will now try to convert this entire project of the Algerian forest fire dataset into an end-to-end project wherein we will be getting a web application wherein we'll be doing the deployment in the AWS cloud. Right now, to begin with, first of all, you need to get some basic idea about the machine learning project's life cycle. Right, initially, whenever we start any machine learning project, we start with the concept of data collection. Now, data collection is something like where you are specifically reading a data from some specific source. Right now, the data that was present, it was already available in the form of CSV file, right? But in the companies, when you go, right, you will be reading for the data set from some databases like MongoDB, MySQL, or from Big Data Hadoop. It can be different sources, right? In a team, when you are working, right, you will be having the cloud team separate, you'll be having the big data team separate. And as we go ahead, there will also be a lot of topics related to big data and how we can probably create this, or how we can come up with this data collection strategy. So this is the first step. Then in the second step, we performed EDA, right? So much of EDA, exploratory data analysis, where we try to understand about the data of the Algerian forest fire data set, right? And then after that, we performed feature engineering. In feature engineering, we focused on understanding how to handle missing values, how to clean the data, and many more steps as such, right? And then after that, we perform feature selection, that is FS, feature selection. Now, not all the important features are there available, should be used in a data set. Only the most important features. We also need to check multicollinearity. That is the concept that we discussed in our previous video. And after that, we went ahead and trained our model, right? From this model, we had selected this best model, that is ridge regression, right? So that is the reason we created this pickle file, and this pickle file was saved in the hard disk, right? And in the feature engineering, there was a technique called as feature scaling. At that point of time, we created this scalar.pickle, which was for the standardization process, which is nothing but feature scaling, and this was specifically model. Now what we need to do after our model is basically created, now we will go ahead and create a web application. Okay, let's say this is my web app, right? And this web app will have some kind of form which will take all the inputs that is required to do the prediction from this particular model, right? Once we take all these inputs, all we have to do is that just submit all those inputs. It will go ahead and interact with my ridge regression model, and this input it will take and it will give me some output which will be my prediction, right? So after we develop this particular web app, and this web app we are going to develop it with the help of Flask, and finally we have to go ahead and do the deployment, and here we are going to use AWS Cloud Beanstalk, right? So this is the step. Now we are going to focus on this web app and the deployment part. So probably my videos will be divided into two parts. One is creating web app. Again, I'll be writing all the code from scratch, and then we will go ahead and do the deployment. Okay. Now let's go ahead. First of all, to start with, what I have done is that, I've already downloaded all this pickle files. See, rich pickle, scalar pickle, and I've kept it inside a folder over here. See, rich pickle, scalar pickle. Then here I have my feature engineering files and all, model training file. Now what I'm going to do over here is that I'm going to go to my lab template, and first of all, we will go and open a Flask app, right? So once I click on this, right? So this lab, I will open it, and it will be a VS Code lab. Okay. Now this will basically be a VS Code lab. Now in this VS Code lab, we are going to do the coding. Okay. I'll just move my face a little bit on the left side. Now here, as soon as you open this lab, you will be getting some important things over here. First of all, it will tell you to install all the recommended extension for the repository. So I will go ahead and click on install. So once we click on install, this is going to probably take some amount of time. So the installation process will take place, and here is the installation that is happening. So whatever is the default extension we are going to use, we are just going to do the installation for that. Okay. So now I'm going to move my face this side so that you will be able to see it. Okay. Now I'll press enter. Now let me go ahead and close each and everything over here. Okay. And then we will start our code from scratch. So this is what is the by default code I will be getting. Okay. And this is basically my readme file. Now let's go to the folder, and I will tell you that what all things I'm going to take from this folder. First of all, I will go ahead and take this EDA and model training file. I will upload it over here. See, just do drag and drop and I will be able to see it. Okay. So here is my model training and EDA. And here I'm going to create one notebooks folder. Okay. So that all my notebooks will be inside this folder for my reference purpose. So I'm going to move it. Okay. Done. So that I can refer it whenever I want. The next folder that I am going to probably create is something called as models. Okay. And it will be created outside. So let me just go ahead and write over a folder models. Okay. Now inside this models, what I am actually going to do is that I'm going to probably go ahead and upload this rich.pickle and scalar.pickle because these are the pickle files that I'm going to use. So I'll just go ahead and upload in the pickles. Okay. In the models folder. Okay. Now everything is ready. Now this all things are there. Now this is my app.py. Here I will be writing my code. Okay. If you want the data set also, you can upload the data set over here inside this notebook. Okay. So I will go over here and probably go and update this data set over here. Okay. So I have uploaded the data set. So that data set will also be available so that you can refer it whenever you require. Now we'll go and start creating our web application with the help of Flask. And here I'm just going to write all the line by line code in front of you. Okay. So you can also practice along with me. First of all, instead of writing app.py, I'll just rename it to application.py. And there is a reason why I'm doing this. And I will just tell you in some time, okay, why I'm specifically doing this. Okay. So this becomes my application.py over here. Okay. Now what I'm actually going to do over here is that by default, some code is there. Definitely I'll keep this code over here. Now, instead of writing app is equal to flask underscore name, I will write application is equal to, and there is a reason at the end while deployment, I'll tell you, and I'll assign this to app. Okay. So I've just made 2 lines of change over here. I'm saying application with flask underscore name. And then this is basically assigned to the app variable. And this app variable will be used here just to start our execution. Okay. Okay guys, so now what we are going to do over here is that let's go ahead and import some of the libraries, and now we'll start creating our Flask app. So from Flask, import Flask, and along with this I will be importing request JSONify so that I return my result in the form of JSON. And then one more important thing that is called as render template. Now render template will be super important because this render template will be responsible in probably finding out the URL of the HTML file. I'll just show you. Just wait till now till I execute the code. Okay. Along with this, I'm going to import pickle. Okay. So pickle will be there, and along with this, I'm also going to import the basic library as NumPy. Import pandas as PD. Okay. Along with this, I'm also going to import from sklearn.preprocessing. I'm going to import the standard scalar. Okay. Standard scalar. Okay. Now here you can see that in this environment right now, NumPy pandas has not been installed, right? So how I'm saying, because in requirement.txt, I just have Flask. Okay. So I'm just going to add NumPy. I'll tell you why we are specifically writing all these libraries over here, because it is for our installation purpose, right? We will not every time write pip install. Instead, in one file, that is requirement.txt, I will go ahead and write all my libraries which I'm going to use. Okay. So here I have all my libraries. Now, if I probably want to install it, open the terminal. So this will basically be my terminal over here. And all I have to write in order to install this libraries that is probably present in this requirement.txt, that is pip install -r requirement.txt, and just execute it. So here you'll be able to see Flask is already satisfied, but NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, everything is getting installed, right? So this will probably take time, hardly 1 minute, but understand everybody will get the same speed because this is running in some PW Skills Lab. So there is some different server, different machine where it is specifically running. Now, every time if you probably want to just install a library, update that library name, it is a very good practice. You have to just update in requirement.txt and start the process. Now here you can see the libraries has been installed. So I'll close this. Now I will go to my application.py. Okay. Now the first step is that obviously I have created my Flask name. I hope you have learned this in the Flask session. Okay. We start in creating our application, like our app application. Okay. So Flask application. Okay. And remember, here is where my entire execution will basically start. Now the first step, as I said, my web application should be able to interact with the rich.pickle and standard.pickle, right? And why we are doing that? Because it will be able to interact and it will be able to do the transformation function. And also transformation, when I say it is nothing but feature scaling. In case of rich, it will be able to do the prediction. Okay. So here I'm going to just write import rich regressor and standard scalar pickle, right? So for doing this, I've already imported pickle file and I've already shown you in the previous video how to load from the pickle file, right? So here I will create a variable which is called as rich model, and this will basically load my rich.pickle. And for that I have to basically use open function, and here I will just write models and I will give my path, right? Because inside the models everything is present, right? So models, everything is present inside that. So models slash rich.pickle. Okay, rich.pickle, and this will probably get opened in the read byte mode. So this will be read byte mode. Okay, so done. Over here I've basically opened the rich.pickle in the read byte mode, and then I'm going to create standard underscore scalar, and here I'm going to basically write pickle dot load, and here also I will just write open and then again models slash scalar dot pickle. Okay, because that is my pickle name, right? Models slash scalar dot pickle, and again this will basically be in the read byte mode. Okay, now all this has been loaded. Now we are going to just use this while we have to do the prediction. Now perfect, this is here. Now the next one that we are probably going to create is my home page, right? Now in home page, my route will be app.route slash. Okay, and here let me just go ahead and update this function like index, and here I'm going to return render template and give something like index.html. Now you will be able to understand what is the importance of this render template which we have imported. This, as soon as we write render template, this will what it will do, it will just go and find index.html where it is over here, and it will always make sure that it will find inside a folder which is called as templates folder. So render_template basically means it will just look for the template folder over there, and inside that whether that index.html file is present or not. If it is not present, then when we are executing this code, it will not work. So here I will just create a file which is called as index.html, and inside this HTML I will just write h1 tag, and I'll say I will allow this. So I will just say h1 tag, and I will say welcome to the home page. I'll just try to execute and show it to you how it will look like. Okay, and this will basically be my h1 tag. Done. So I've done this, a simple application.py I've executed over here, and I've created the home page. I've created a route for the home page. Now let's go ahead and execute this and see how my execution will happen. Okay, so if I probably open the terminal. Okay, now one thing that you really need to note over here, when we are running, right, we have given the host as 0.0.0. Now see this. Okay, once I run this python app.py. Okay, so it is not app.py, it is application.py. Okay, application.py. I will just remove this, and once I execute it, now see what is happening. From Skykit sklearn pre-processing import standard scalar. Now there is a problem over here. What is the problem with respect to this? sklearn.preprocessing import standard scalar. I did not write the correct spelling. Okay, so please make sure that you write the correct spelling. Now I will go ahead and clear the screen, because now I will just go and write python application.py just to test everything is working or not. Now see, when we have given by default 0.0.0 as my host address, right, this is basically mapped to the local IP address of any machine that you're working. So let's say if you're running this entire application in a local machine, then also if you give 0.0.0, in short, this is getting mapped to your local IP address. And obviously local IP address will not be publicly available, right? Now that is simple. Now the system address where this code is exactly running is having this IP address, okay? And if you want to access this, we have to use the URL over here, okay? So this is the URL we will specifically be using. And here what I will do, I will write a port number 5000, because by default any Flask app will run the application in default port number of 5000. If you want to change the port number, then probably you can just write your own port number, whatever is available with respect to your system, like port is equal to 8080 or 8000, whatever you want, you can basically write, okay? So right now I will not write it, I'll keep it like that, and I want to run it in default 5000. Now once I execute it over here and write 5000 and slash, now see what will happen. This, as soon as I execute, it is displaying welcome to the home page. So in short, what has happened is that once we wrote slash, right? In short, this has basically triggered this function. Now this render template, what it is doing, it is searching inside the templates folder, and it found out one index.html, and it is basically displaying this particular message over here saying that welcome to the home page, right? Now this is a basic idea about how the template is basically visible. Now similarly, what I am going to do for the prediction with respect to my model, right? I'm going to create similar app.route like this, okay? So here again, I will go ahead and write app.route, and this time let me go ahead and use another URL like predict data, okay? So this will specifically predict data. Now one important parameter I'm going to write, methods, right? Method is equal to, and this will include both get and post method, okay? So get and post method we are going to specifically use over here. And this get and post method, what is the difference between get and post method? Now see, if I go to my URL and search for google.com, so by default when I'm just searching for google.com, I will get one static page, right, like this. So this becomes a get request, right? By default, whatever the information page has, I'm getting that particular information. Now probably if I go ahead and search for PW skills, right, and execute it, now here you'll be able to see I am posting something. I am posting some information over here, right? Now when I post some information, that basically means I'm sending some query, right? And based on that query, I'm retrieving this kind of results, right? So I hope you are able to understand what is the difference between get and post. In the get, we are just retrieving. In post, we are sending some information into the net to our server. And based on that, we'll get some kind of response. Now, similarly, our plan is what? In our web application, right? We will be creating all the input fields through which, based on that input fields, we will be doing the prediction of FWI, right? So FWI was the parameter that we are doing the prediction. We had already seen over here, right? In the model training purpose, which we saw, right? We were basically predicting, we were doing this prediction for specifically this particular data. It was nothing but it was all the input data, and I was getting the output of FWI, right? FWI is nothing but, I will just go and show you that specific feature. It is nothing but fire weather index, right? So this was the information that I was doing. Now similarly, what we will do, we'll create this web application, we'll create this page. Inside this, all the fields will be there. Once we enter this field, once we press the submit button, it should interact in the backend with our model and give the prediction. That is what we want to do, okay? So quickly, let's go ahead and do that. Right now we are able to get the home page. So I'm just going to close this so that we will continue the execution. Now here you'll be able to see I'm getting get and post method. Now I will go ahead and create my definition. So definition predict underscore data point, and here I'm going to basically use if request dot method. Now see, whether it is get or post, if we really need to find out, then we really need to write this particular condition. If the request dot method is double equal to post, okay, then I will do some execution. So I'll keep pass over here, okay, and I'm not writing what I'm going to do, because whenever it is a post, I need to interact with my Ridge model. I need to do the prediction and get the output. This I will write the code later on. In the else block, this is basically saying that if my request dot method is get, right, if it is not post, either it will be get, right? So in that scenario, I will just say return render template. So by default, whatever HTML file I want to display, I will display. So I will write home.html. So this is the HTML that I'm going to display. Now I'm using render template. So in render template, inside my templates, I don't have home.html. So I will go ahead and create my home.html. So here I have home.html. Done. So this is my home.html that is basically created. Now what HTML I will specifically have, okay? And one thing that you need to understand, guys, in HTML, right, you don't have to worry about how you'll design the HTML page. This is done by the front-end engineer. But in short, my web application should have fields of the 9 input fields that I want to give. So for that, I will be creating this form. So I'm copying some code over here. This is my HTML, this is my body, and this is the most important thing, which is my form. Now through this form, I will submit my data, right? So just to give you a good a basic info about form will have some action, and in that action you write in this way about the function that you need to call, and for that you need to use URL_for. Okay, so once you write URL_for, predict_data point. Now when this predict_data point is what we are basically calling this particular function, right? So in this function only we will basically do the post, and then we'll get the output, right? And here is my home.html, and then this method is post, right? So because of this method is equal to post, my application, when we write request.method, it will be able to retrieve whether it is a post or a get. Okay, so here you have, and then these are all the 9 input fields that I'm giving: temperature, RH, WS, rain, FFMC, DMC, ISI, classes, and region. And finally, I'll be having a submit button, which will be doing the prediction of this entire form, right? So this will be my entire form. And finally, the FWI prediction is some result. This we will discuss, okay? What exactly this result is. This is the prediction that we'll be doing from the model, okay? Now let's go ahead and execute it. And right now, nothing is there in the post. I've just written pass, okay? So I will just save this and go ahead and open my terminal again. And let's run this. Here again, I will write Python application.py. So once I execute it, now here you can see it is running, everything is running. Now, if I want to call this URL /predict data, so I will just go and call. Now what will happen once I call by default, this becomes a get method. In get method, what is happening? See, if the request.method is post, but right now it is not post, we'll go into this else block. It has to show this home.html, which has this particular form. So I will go ahead and execute it and just press enter. And this is what you are specifically getting, right? These are all my fields. And right now the result is empty because we did not do any post, right? Now main thing is that we'll put values over here, and once we click this predict button, what will happen once we click this predict button? It will just go and hit this predict_data point, which is this function. Now it will say that if this particular post, then we have to write our code over here. Okay. Now this is the thing that we are going to handle. The first thing over here that we are going to do is that read all the inputs of all these particular values, right? Like temperature, RH, WS, rain, FFMC, DMC, ISI, classes, and region. Okay. So for that, I will just remove this pass. Okay. And I will just copy one code for you so that you get all the input files. So you get all the values with respect to this all things, right? So here I require all my input values, right? Like temperature I want. Now, if you want to get temperature, all you have to do, use this request object and just write request.form.get temperature. This temperature should be matching with the name that is present over here. These are like input text box, right? Everything is an input text box. So this value, if I want to get, I have to probably read with this specific name. So here I have written request.form.get and this particular temperature. Similarly, RH, WS, rain, FFMC, DMC, ISI, classes, region. So here I get all my input parameters. Okay. Now, once I get my input parameters, I will probably use this standard scalar for doing the transformation, because that is the first step it is required. Never do fit_transform. You have to do transform for the new data point, right? So here we will go ahead and write standard scalar dot transform. It is standard scalar only. Standard scalar dot transform. Okay. Now inside this transform, I will be giving all my input values. Okay. So what all input values are there? Temperature, this, the region, this all things. comma by comma separated I will give. Okay. So once I give this, I will be getting my, you can basically say I'll get my new scale data, right? So new data, new underscore data underscore scale. Done. Okay. So standard scalar, you know what exactly standard scalar is. You have basically loaded standard.pickle in the write byte mode, right? Now finally you have this. Now the next step is that I will try to predict my result, and for this I will be using ridge underscore model dot predict with respect to your new data scaled, right? And once you get the result, after that you're going to show your result in the home.html only, right? So again I will write return render template, and here I'm going to basically write home.html, but I need to show this result, right? And this result will be a list of value which will have just one value, and it will be in the form of list. Okay, so here I will just create a variable which will be like results. Okay, something like results, and here this will get assigned to my result of 0. Okay, as I said, this will be in the form of a list, right? So done, we have done this. Now this result variable, when I go to home.html, we should be able to retrieve it over here. Okay, and this is basically written in double curly braces so that you can get the value from the backend, that is application.py. Okay, so yes, done. We are very much good to go with respect to this. Now the next thing that I'm probably going to do is that I'm going to just run my terminal. Okay, so quickly let's go ahead and close this. Here I'll just write Control C. I will close all these terminals. Okay, no worries. So this will basically be my clear screen. Now let's go ahead and write Python application.py. Okay, done. So this has got executed perfectly. Now here you can see this. Now I will go and reload this page again. So we have reloaded it. Now what I will do, see the magic. Okay, I will put some values 29, 57, 18, 0.0, 65.6. I'm putting some values based on some test data. And once I do 1 and I do the prediction, now this is the output that I'm specifically getting. See, that result is now getting displayed, right? So this is nothing but 0.77540. And this is how you have basically created or converted your regression, the problem statement that you did, right? Algerian forest fire into an end-to-end project, right? Now all you have to do is that do the deployment in the GitHub repository. So for that, quickly let me show you how to do the deployment. So first of all, just go ahead and write ls-a. So here you'll be able to see some .git file. Okay, so by default, whenever you open a Flask app, you will be able to see one GitHub repository will be there by default. So if you write git remote -v, so here you can basically see that I'm having this PW skills GitHub URL. So what I will do, I want to put all my code this into my personal GitHub repository so that I will be able to do the deployment. So for that I will write git remote remove this specific origin, right? This entire thing, I'm going to remove it. So this is the command that is used. So this is now removed. Now if I write git remote v, now you'll be able to see nothing you're able to get. Okay. Now what I will do, I will open my GitHub repository. I will go and search for my repository or create a new repository. So let's go ahead and create it. So I will just go ahead and create it. So I will write test forest fires. Okay, test forest fires. This will be a public or private, it is up to you. I will not select anything and I'll just create the repository. Now once we create the repository, these are the steps we need to follow. Okay, I already have a readme file, so I will start with git init. So I will go and execute this. I will write git init and execute. Okay, so now it is reinitializing some existing GitHub repository over here, and I'm ready for the next step. The next step is very simple. I will go ahead and add all my files. So here I will go ahead and write git add dot. So now if I probably see git status, you'll be able to see all the files which has been added and deleted. Everything will be available over here, right? Perfect. So here you'll be able to see application.py, this is available. Okay. Now the next step that we are probably going to do over here is that I will go ahead and write git commit -m first commit. So for that I will go and paste it over here. Now it is basically asking me how you're doing the GitHub commit. You have not given your which email ID your GitHub repository is, or what is the user.name. Everything is given over here. So I will go ahead and set my Git email ID. So here in the email ID, whatever is the GitHub repository email ID, you have to put it over here. So I will go ahead and write krishnaik06@gmail.com. Okay. And I'll go ahead and execute it. And then I will go ahead and copy this over here and write my user.name, that is Krish. I'll just write my username, that is Krish Nayak. Okay. Now, once this is done, that basically means my global config email and name has been set up. So I will go ahead and clear the screen. Okay. Now what I'm actually going to do quickly over here is that I'll just say git commit first commit. So now all the file is ready for the committing purpose, and all I have to push, before pushing, I have to set up my git branch also. So git branch will be set to -m main. Okay. And then after that, the next step is that we're going to add this specific origin over here so that it will know where to commit, in which GitHub repository to commit. So once I have done this, perfect. And here the next step, what we'll do, we'll just do git push -u origin to main. Okay. So I hope this all steps, I'm just repeating it again. I hope this has been taught earlier in the project itself. Now the extension GitHub wants to sign in using GitHub. So just allow this. You'll be getting a code, copy this code and open it, and here authenticate each and everything. So just paste the code over here and click on continue. So it'll ask for the authorization, give the authorization, use your password or your mobile, whatever is required, and just confirm it. So this authorization is set and your code will get pushed with respect to all the things that is there. Now, if I go and reload this, you'll be able to see that my GitHub code is available over here, right? So I hope you are able to understand how to develop a web application, and we have also done the GitHub repository. Now in the next session, what we are going to do is that we are going to use AWS console, and we are going to use Elastic Beanstalk, and we are going to use code pipeline, and we're going to deploy the code, right? So yes, this was it. Now in the next video, we're going to focus on the deployment part, right? So yes, this was it from my side. I will see you all in the next video.